Hello there and welcome back. So in this video, we are going to continue our Raspberry Pi journey and we are going to create a new stack on Swarmpit. So if you watched the previous videos, then you are aware that you have like this web UI for Docker Swarm. And currently I have removed the Raspberry Pis, the Pi Zeros from the stack because they are slow and not yet relevant for what I'm about to do. And this is going to be our setup. So currently, I want to expose a highly available Python web app service. And this web app service is going to just simply respond with the host or node name where it is running. And I want to put these services behind an Nginx web server, which is going to load balance across all these services. And I want to show you how to set this up. So let me clear the screen. So basically, we have to enter the RPi cluster. And here in the RPi cluster, we will need the Nginx configuration. So basically, I'm going to create under the tab the nginx.conf. And this is how it is supposed to look like. And basically, this is the relevant information because what will happen is that we don't want to adjust our Nginx configuration based on the number of the replicas we will have from our web app. We just want to trust this functionality to Docker Swarm. And this is the key part. So we are going to configure an upstream, which is called Python. And we say that every replica of this service is going to listen on port 80. And when we configure the reverse proxy, what it will do is it will pass the request to the upstream server. So behind the scenes, the load balancing feature of Docker Swarm will kick in, and in a round-robin fashion, it will send one request to each replica, one by one. That's one part. And the other part is the stack definition. So let's create a new stack. And we call this Python. And the version is going to be 3. And we want to have services. And one of the services is going to be the Nginx service, which will come from the image. Let me make this a bit bigger for you. Yeah, so you can see it. So this is going to be the Nginx latest image, and the ports is going to be as follows. So basically, we want to expose port 80 to port 80. And yeah, this is going to be the one. And what we would also do is to expose the web services and map them to 8080 to 80. And we need the volume mapping. So this volume mapping will come from the temp nginx.conf and will map to the etc nginx nginx.conf. Basically, we attach the configuration file to the container. And we will have the networks, which is going to be the default. And the deployment will have one restriction. So the placement is going to be constrained by the node.role being a manager. So basically, if we go back to the dashboard and check out our nodes, you will see that I have one manager and 2 workers. And this is just a remnant of the previous one I had for the Raspberry. I had to rejoin it to the Swarm because there was an issue with the NAS and I had to reinstall it. So basically, once this is done, what we can do is define our Python service. So this Python service is going to use the image from my public repository. This is ReaperPy Python Docker and 2.0.0. So basically this is just the standard web application which is containerized. And it will have the ports mapped as follows. So 8080 to 8080. And it will also have, what will it have? The networks as the default. And we will have the following. So the network is the default, and the deploy is going to have replicas of 2, and the restart policy is going to be on failure, and the delay is going to be 30 seconds, and the condition is, so restart policy, condition on failure, and the delay is 30 seconds, and the window is 120 seconds. And the max attempts is 3. And we are going to place a condition, and it is going to be a constraint, and we say that the node.role should be worker. And finally, we are going to have the networks default driver is overlay. So overlay network in Docker terms means that it's going to be a network which is visible from all the nodes of our swarm. So if everything goes well, we should be able to deploy it. Additional property. Like this. It was not in the right one. So technically, you can see that the 2 Python containers are already running, and we can verify it by saying that we want to use CURL on the HTTP RPy 8080 and the RPy NAS 8080. And all right. So now the Nginx is also running, or supposed to be running, yes. And it is running on the CNET Pi. So CURL HTTP localhost is going to give us either one response from here or from there. And the other thing that I want to do is to create a mapping. So how should we do it? Let's do it this way. Port forwarding, and I want to edit this one. So it forwards the port 80. All right. So when port forwarding port 80, and if I go to the HTTP ReaperPy ddns.net and 10,000, you can see that these nodes start to respond. So HTTP Reaper Pi, the ddns.net, port 10,000. So let me try to zoom in. Good. And they are responding. Let's try to scale this up. So I say that I need a bit more power to my machines. So all I have to do is to go to the stack and say that it has now 5 replicas. So Docker Swarm will figure out which nodes get to run which instances. And as you can see, it is now starting and running. And if I start refreshing, you note how more different replies come in. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. And if you want, in the services, you can go to the Python, and you can click on Edit. And maybe in the deployment, not here, network general, replicas, let's take it down to 2. So now only 2 instances are running. And that's it. Oh, it's still running or starting. So now you can see the load balancing is working and the services get done. So if I wanted to further scale it, I could join the Pi0s to Swarm and say that they are worker nodes, and then the Swarm manager could deploy the application there as well. That was all. I hope you liked it. See you in the next one.